Salam wa marhaba. Welcome to the Habibis podcast. Three game developers drinking good Arab tea and talking a whole bunch of stuff. I'm your host, Fawzi Mesmar.
And I'm Osama Dorias.
And I'm Rami Ismail.
So, what has been going on this week?
So I haven't had too much time to play a lot of games, but I did finish. I think last week I talked a bit about how I started on Super Mario 3D World,
Yep.
but that I hadn't touched Bowser's Fury yet. And let me tell you, I have pretty much exclusively played Bowser's Fury, and it is unbelievably good, like
Oh yeah.
unimaginably good.
It's like worth buying the game over good.
Oh yeah, no, it like if they had told me that Bowser's Fury was the game and it was full price, I would probably still buy it.
Wow. Okay.
So, Rami,
It
tell me, how do I get to it?
Yeah, it's sort of like a standalone. The game launches as a launcher, and then if you pick Super Mario 3D World, it loads instantly because I'm guessing the engine is optimized for it. If you pick Bowser's Fury, there's like a 35-second load time, and then the game starts. But the structure is the thing that's interesting to me, right? It is an open world Mario game. So you start with little story beat. Mario gets dragged into some sort of oil thing and then appears in a world where he lands in a giant Bowser footstep, right?
Okay.
Mhm.
Footstep.
And from that point on, he runs around and he's collecting these little cat shiny things that light up lighthouses. You kind of go around and you collect a few, and each of these is connected to an area. Every area has 5 challenges or a bunch of additional challenges. Some of them repeat between the areas. Some of them are unique to an area. So some of them might be a little puzzle. Some of them might be collecting 5 shiny things. Some of them might be returning an object to another object. Some are jumping puzzles. Some are like agility puzzles.
Is it
So
single player only? This one compared to the other one?
it's this sort of single player that you also saw in Odyssey, where one player
Ah,
controls Mario and the other player controls another character that can help.
and it's only two players then.
Two
One.
players, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Now the thing is, all of that sounds pretty normal, right? It's a
Yeah.
Mario game.
Yeah.
It's sort of like an open world take on Mario. But every now and then it'll start to rain. When it starts to rain, within a few seconds, the sky will turn entirely dark and just Mega Bowser appears.
Whoa.
Like this is like kaiju sized Bowser. And the game just continues.
Okay.
Interesting.
You just continue. Only now you have to take cover from these giant beams of fire and these stones coming from everywhere, and Bowser jumping over the entire area that you're at to get a better shot at you. And the only way to make Bowser go away is to survive long enough, and you can continue doing what you were doing. You just now also have to deal with Bowser, or to collect a cat shine, which will light the lighthouse that you're near, and the light will scare away Bowser and do a tiny bit of damage to his health bar.
Hmm.
Which means that the entire game is effectively one big boss fight.
Oh.
Because if you collect enough cat shines, you switch to a mode in which a giant power up becomes available, and the giant power up turns Mario into Mario Cat Megazord, I guess. Where Mario is now also just huge, and now you're like fighting Bowser as giants running around the level that you were just like trying to climb a little tree in or
Wait,
something.
and this
You
can
know, you just
happen in
sold me
like
on the
any
game.
level?
It can happen at any point, wherever you are, whatever you are
Holy
doing.
crap.
You can be at the end of like the most complicated jumping puzzle, and it starts raining, and you're just like, "Oh no,
Oh no.
oh no! I better make these final 2 jumps and get that shine, or I'm gonna start climbing this tower all the way
What
again."
is it with Nintendo and
Um,
rain? It's like when I'm playing Breath of the Wild and it starts raining and I go like, oh no,
right?
oh no, please no.
They really don't like rain. But the balance they have, and the way Bowser sort of escalates through the game is really interesting. Like it really feels like the entire game is one big boss fight. As a 3D platformer, like you're
Wow.
attacking, you're collecting research. I've had times where I thought like, oh, Bowser's gonna appear soon.
Hmm.
I don't know if this is true or if this was one of those things where, like in Pokemon, where you press the button exactly as the Pokeball wiggles.
Mhm.
Hmm.
I don't know if this is actually how it works or it just feels how it works, but I feel like if you look at sleeping Bowser when he's not attacking you, he wakes up faster. So I'll just stand near one of those cat shines waiting for him to wake up and then grab it so he goes away again and I have some more time to do the next puzzle. So you're definitely switching between, okay, let's aggressively get these things so I can go Megazord Mario, or I will play a little more defensively because this area is hard for me.
You're mentioning areas. I mean, yes, it's an open world Mario game, and there are different ways that this has been handled in the past. I'm curious, is it kind of like Mega Man-ish, where you could go in any direction and complete any of the things, or does it like guide you through a path that you could kind of break?
There's a path, but you can skip most things. The only thing is, I think there's two progress gates. So there's
Okay.
one thing where you can't progress beyond or to a certain part of the map until you defeat the boss the first time,
Hmm.
and then he just gets up again, and now he's stronger and more angry and has more attacks.
Okay, so his evolutions are more or less linear, but they just can happen anywhere on the map because
Right,
okay, that's
right,
really
and
interesting.
then he will block certain parts of the level until he reaches certain levels of anger.
Oh, okay. So it's already bigger than an add-on to like 3D World.
Oh, it feels like a full. It honestly feels like a full
Wow.
game. There's a lot of joy. I like Super Mario 3D World, I really do. But like the sort of Mario formula of go into the world, do the level, get out of the world, go to the mushroom house, get the power up, go into the next level, do that until you do get to the castle. I tire of it really
Mhm.
quickly. The first time I got tired, I thought, well, I'll boot up, Bowser's Fury, and then I never stopped. I'm still playing Bowser's Fury. I have 70 of the 100 collectibles in the game, and I'm gonna get all 100.
Wow.
It's
Wow.
too
Man, I
much
can't
fun.
think of another company other than Nintendo that could just like add an value to what is this? Like 3D World is 2013, 2014. Like this is a six,
Right.
7 year old game, man. Like the previous generation by all accounts. It was like a Wii U game. And like to bring it back to the Switch and like to add this level of
Right.
value to it. It's just like I can't think of another company that could like just continuously do surprising out of whack things in that way.
Yeah. No.
The Wii U sold what 9 million units
Yeah.
lifetime, and like we're talking about the Switch, who's gonna approach I don't know 60 million lifetime, if not more.
Yeah.
And so like
Yeah.
they could go like, here's the previous game with nothing. Only 10 million
Yes.
people played it. We don't need to add anything to
Right.
it.
The Mario Kart basically had all the DLC included for free, right? So
Yeah.
that was their upsell. But this is something else. This is like, hey, we're making a new game and we're tacking on an old game and we're selling it for the price of one game. That's phenomenal.
Mm.
Also, like, let's just be honest. Like, for Mario to be a giant fighting with a giant Bowser, it's just that alone is worth the
Yeah,
price of
yeah.
admission.
Yeah, that's what you sold me on when you said that. I'm like, that's it.
That team in Nintendo, I think the Tokyo team, Tokyo EAD, I think is what they make. Like those are the team that makes the 3D Mario's, like from Nintendo Mario 64 up until Odyssey. I think like those guys like
Mhm.
outbuy any game they make blindly. Like they're some of the best developers in the world, and like especially when it comes to 3D platformers, they're like
Yeah, yeah,
unparalleled
top
level of
notch.
skill.
But I think I have to admit, I think that's all I played this week. I don't know. Did either of you get to much more than that?
I played quite a different game actually. I played a Steam early access game called Valheim.
Oh,
Oh,
This game has like been making the rounds quite a bit. Like I usually don't play early access games, not that much, but like there was so much hype around this game, it was almost impossible for me to ignore. Like all of a sudden, like everyone I know is either playing it or talking about it or saying like how they want to play it or like how they're dreaming about building a Viking inspired stronghold in the woods or people are talking about like stones and flints out of the blue and like like normal conversations. So I had to
right.
like, check it out. It's basically like an exploration game. Like it's you explore a huge fantasy world inspired by Norse mythology and Viking culture. You start in like in an area called Valheim, and then you can travel in any direction. It's like completely open to you. You can go and do stuff. You collect items, you fight monsters, and you craft and you build things. Um,
Is there a goal of like or a narrative other than survive, or is that really it's a survival
the
game?
first couple of things they give me as the game started is like there's the tutorial, there's this raven that tells you, hey, do this, hey, do that, and like it guides you through it. But it's also open to the point that I can ignore the raven and do something else until I got lost and then try to find the raven again. Then I gotta figure out what I was supposed to do. I was like, at some point, I screw the raven, I'm gonna chop some trees. And then I got lost and I lost the raven and I spent an hour doing nothing, just punching random dudes as they approach me. It has one of the most satisfying punches in a game I found in a long time. They have like camera shakes with every punch, and it's like kapow sound every time you punch something.
So is it
It's
like
good. Good.
arcadey, like intentionally
I
arcadey, and in terms of
arcadey, like in terms of like how the attacks are going.
like gamey? Yeah, like is it? It's not going for anything realistic because you're saying camera shakes and like whatever. Is it like I have to look it
Yeah,
up more
yeah.
because that was a game I wanted to play this
Mm.
week. And tell me more about it. Like basically, you're playing a multiplayer.
You can
Did you play with
you
other
can
people?
play with other people. You can switch PvP on and off. You can create as many servers as you want. So you can create
Okay.
custom servers. You can start a server with friends. You can start a public server. Um, yeah, so like the game starts, there's this scroll, like I said, that tells you what to do. But also, like they
Hmm.
tell you, like you probably need to get ready to fight this ancient Viking enemy, or sometimes it's monster. It's like mixed between Norse mythology. So you go like, there's
Hmm.
this monster here. You probably need to get ready to fight him. But also, here's the world. Do whatever you want. So yeah, it becomes like a personality type of what you end up wanting to do. It could be something like you goof around with friends. You could be like,
I have a couple of questions about that. I'm sorry. I'm
go for it.
really
Yeah, go
intrigued.
for it.
Um,
I don't know
so
that much
the
about it
servers
yet. I think I played for like 6 hours or something of the sort. But yeah,
is it okay? So the world is persistent. The server that you're creating is persistent.
yes.
Does it only exist for the people who you started it with? Is it drop in, drop out? Like if you're making a public, do like what's the limit? How many people could come in? How server based or session based is this? How MMO is this? Like that's
Um,
the bar that I'm trying to place.
it can get a little bit MMO. Like I get MMO vibes playing it, especially like with the combat is attack and block kind of attack. So it's kind of combat. So it's active style combat.
Basic,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's basic, but it does the job. It feels satisfying, and it really emphasizes your gear. And that
Hmm.
emphasis on the gear feels a little bit MMO to me, especially that you can go
Yeah,
PvP,
Right.
right?
Right.
yeah, yeah.
So like
Absolutely.
like there is a point of going like I want to get like good gear, get good equipment, and then like try to find some other people that are looking for a fight. Um,
Can you
Right.
carry over your character from server to server, or are they linked to the server?
Because from what I understand, it's a combination between that, right? Like you build your gear, you craft
mhm.
stuff, and you build a base or a
Yeah, a
fortress or a
stronghold.
place,
You can build
a
many
stronghold.
if you want, as many as you want.
And from what I understood from the conversation, I seem to understand that you can bring those to other places, to other
Yeah.
servers as well. Which
Hmm.
it seems like a very weird mix of sort of MMO ideas, like old school online
Mhm.
RPGs and Minecraft.
Yeah,
Hmm.
the game can grow quite a bit. So like you
Right.
can create like Viking mead halls or castles, strongholds, outposts, right? And like eventually, like what my friends keep talking about, and what I want to end up building is like you can build ships. It's like already like the further you go away from like your starting area is relatively peaceful. You could just punch people to death, uh, but or monsters to death. But from there on, like the
Hmm.
further you explore, the biomes change quite drastically, and like you can find more rare items that help you craft more important stuff. But then you can also eventually build ships, and then from then on you can like leave this land and go somewhere else. And like that curiosity that have in me, I go like, where could I end up with my vessel? Because also like you can build warships, so there's a good chance that like there could be like some naval battles as part of this game too.
It sounds fascinating.
I'm so intrigued.
So yeah, it's a lot that you can do. I think like it's a lot of fun with friends.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, no, I mean it's impossible to miss, right? Like the rise of this game has been like like
Yeah, the two
it's
million copies in 2 weeks or something like that.
right. It's one of the
Yeah,
most played games on Steam at the
Yeah,
moment.
yeah.
or of all time,
Yeah,
I
man.
guess. Like most simultaneous players, or like in the top 5 of most simultaneous players
Yeah.
ever.
I could totally see that. Like I immediately like as I jumped in. First of all, the first time I played it, I jumped in on my own and started like just wanted to finish the tutorials and get what's going on. But then immediately all my friends would see like, oh, I'm jumping in, oh, I'm jumping in, and then we had a game going, and that was
Oh,
fun.
Right.
And there's at some point like from the people that have been playing it for longer, it feels like a job in which like, oh, I need to jump in and like collect some of these items so I can get eventually to build this thing. So there's an element of grind to it.
yeah.
But it seems like the grind is fun. Like, I've collected hundreds of Flintstones or stuff like that already. So I wasn't complaining. And like, when you're doing it with friends, it's also like, you're goofing around and like, you're having your social moment as you're doing this.
That's incredible.
Hundreds of Flintstones and 0 ravens.
Yeah. So, like, if there's an advice I would give anybody, listen to the Raven, listen to it all the way through, then go out and do your adventures. Then, like, know your footing before you just go nuts.
It- it's good advice because I will be playing the game this week. Actually, this was the game I wanted to play last week, and I actually had my sights set up on it. But this week was a little bit, or last week was a little bit challenging work wise
Mhm.
because for people who are in game development, you know that these things happen cyclically. You get milestones, you get deliverables, and they happen for different teams at different times because there's kind of a handoff that happens. So for design, it
Right.
usually happens first, and then because you have to get all the designs ready for the next teams to pick it up, and usually then there's an end of a chain team like the audio team or the VFX team that picks it up near the end, and it comes back to design to validate that all these changes still work. So for us, for my team, we had a deliverable at the end of Friday this week. So a lot of the work is really cerebral. You have to think a lot, and
Mhm.
Hmm.
that's a different kind of tired than I clocked in for a few hours. That's my mind has been active and running, full speed for a few hours. And I don't know about
Right.
you two, but for me, my gaming habits are adjusted whenever that happens. I still play games because it's a way I unwind, but which games I play are very different on weeks that I'm either overwhelmed or tired.
Mhm.
Um,
Right.
I generally play I've heard people refer to as comfort food games, uh, the games that I could just like put in my hand and just like zone out. And
Yeah.
for
Right.
me, this week was that. I didn't play anything new. Valheim was on my list. I was waiting for a moment where I felt like alert enough to be able to take in something new, but instead, I played like some Call of Duty and I played Overwatch and I played a lot of King of Fighters. Just jumping from those games that are automatic. I could just rest my mind, my hands, my muscle memory
Right.
goes through the motions, and it really does help me unwind. I don't know. Do you have comfort food games that you guys play?
Before I jump, I have a bunch that I want to talk about. But before I jump into that, I'm now very curious, Osama. What is the King of Fighters of choice?
Oh, my favorite is 13 by far. Uh,
13.
yes. So
This is like Arabs talking about food.
yeah.
This is gonna be a thing.
So my three favorites are
Uh-huh.
98 Ultimate Match,
98, there we go.
yeah,
Yes.
2002,
Uh-huh.
and 13.
Okay.
So 13 is just like my favorite character. The reason it's my favorite is because my favorite character from all the King of Fighters in play style and in everything is a character in 13. It's mature. I love the changes that they made to her. And
Uh-huh.
I in Street Fighter 4 I main Vega, so I'm always like in the air, jumping and doing like grabs and things like that. With her, I can have that mobility. So that's my favorite play style. Like, and she's there, and the graphics are gorgeous. Like, I know King of Fighters 14 came out afterwards. It plays well, but visually it's such a disappointment that I couldn't really get into it.
Hmm.
13 is that sweet spot between old school graphics and really beautiful visual style. Has a big enough roster, not as big as the other two for sure, but big enough
Hmm.
roster. What's your favorite King of Fighters?
Up at 98 and 2002. I never played 13. So like to hear that it's amongst those it's the top 3 with those two. Now
Yes.
I want to check it out. Because
Oh, you're
Mature
gonna
is
love it.
also in 98 too, right?
Yeah, and I love her in
Yeah.
98. I
Yeah.
think she feels better in 13.
Oh man. I'm a King main.
Yeah, I love King
Yeah.
too.
King is
And
awesome.
you're gonna
Yeah.
love King in 13. Try it.
Okay. Okay.
Seriously. And if I'm not mistaken, 13 was part of Game Pass at one point. I could be wrong. I don't remember. You
Uh,
could give it a try.
Osama, we gotta play some fighting games
So
at some point.
I
It's
am so
very rare
down.
to find people who are into fighting games, and I'm like really into fighting games. So
Oh, I am so down. Rami, do you play fighting games?
very rarely. I mean, I grew up obviously in the arcades in Egypt playing Tekken because there was always a Tekken arcade.
Mhm.
I was actually a fan of Dead or Alive for a long time because I like the counter
Yeah,
system, but I know that's very controversial. Whether people like it or not
I
is
think it's good. Mechanically, like Dead or Alive, I think is actually a solid game.
Solid
But
game.
I
yeah,
love them. Yeah,
absolutely.
but
Mm.
and Dragon Ball Fighters I've been
Oh, it's
playing
gorgeous. I'm terrible
Yeah,
because
at that game.
yeah,
I'll
yeah,
teach you
same.
King of Fighters. You
I
teach me Dragon
Yeah,
Ball Fighters.
right. It's very different, which is I think why I like it. Like I like fighting games, but for some reason my favorite fighting games are like Mario Tennis 8,
That's a good
that's
fighting
a
game.
great game.
which is
A
Yeah.
surprising amount
it's a
of
great
depth
fighting
in
game.
that game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it was very good. So shall we continue to favorite Final Fantasies or other like controversial like just like things we can
No,
argue
no.
about? Uh,
Go back to comfort food games. I want to hear about yours.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
for me, obviously, Destiny is a huge one. I recently had to do an interview where I had to pretend to be playing a video game on a dead controller for a shot. And it's remarkable how well the movements of playing Destiny are in my fingers. Because try it. Like, it's one of those things people always laugh about, when people fake gameplay that it looks weird on a controller. It's actually really hard to look like you're playing a video game because so much of how you move your hands on a controller is
Yep.
subconscious,
Mhm.
right? Like moving the left stick a little, but counteracting your left movement with the right stick a little. How you aim, how you shoot, like there's a certain cadence to it. With Destiny, it's almost automatic to me to the point where they recently reintroduced the very first strike mission from Destiny 1 into Destiny 2, pretty much carbon copy, and I ran it. I at some point you can grab this vehicle, the Sparrow, which is this really fast scooter bike thing,
Mhm.
and I went through the hallways without looking. The last time I played this strike was 7 years ago, so that is still in muscle memory. Just tells you how much I've played Destiny and how much of a comfort that game is to
That's
me. So
awesome. My
I I usually revert back to Destiny.
my comfort game would be Tetris, like
Yeah.
hands down. Man, like
Classic.
I put
Oh,
Tetris on, and I I think it's the closest I can get to meditation. Like I try
right.
meditation on my own, I was like it's not working, but like do Tetris, it's like I am like the entire world around me
I
is completely disappears, and I'm just like
I
in the game.
genuinely I genuinely got emotional at Tetris Effect in
Yeah,
VR. Did you
yeah.
try
Oh my
that?
god, I love that game. And
I
then
played
they
it, but
added
not
the
in
Right.
VR.
Connect update.
Oh wow.
Connected, I think it's called.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
new one where
with
with
multiplayer.
multiplayer.
It's just perfect.
Right.
I
Yep.
love that game.
Yeah, it's
The
very
thing is,
good.
like, I
Oh,
discovered that I was like, I think 4 years ago, I discovered that I was playing Tetris wrong my entire life. And by saying I'm playing Tetris wrong is that I was always stacking up the tetraminos and saving
right.
up the sticks, and then I
Right.
tried to delete 4 lines at once.
Right.
And then when I started watching competitive Tetris, I discovered that you very rarely do that.
Right.
What you do is that you either build combos, you build combo setups to the point that with
Right.
every piece that drops, you remove a line, and you try to remove one line per piece for as long as possible.
Hmm.
So, like you remove 20 lines in 20 turns, you will throw a lot more
Right.
trash at your opponent than with a Tetris.
Wow,
Right.
Or
that's like not the way you usually play Tetris. That's
it's
interesting.
exactly what I'm telling you. Or like, or you create what is called the T-spin setup, which is basically you
Right.
create a setup in which you can remove 2 or 3 lines by rotating the T tetramino
Hmm.
at the very last second. So like it appears to be impossible to fit there, but when you rotate it, it fits. It sneaks in
It,
and fits.
Right.
Removes 3 lines, and those 3 lines are way more effective than a Tetris, and it gives you
so
more points.
Yeah.
so why do you need to do it? I mean, can you set it up differently where you could like take out 3 lines with just one of the long pieces, or is it
The,
specifically that piece that adds a
it's
multiplier?
The T
specifically
spin
that
is a
piece. The
specific
game
one.
will pick it
Right.
up, and like in some of the more modern game, it will say T-spin 200 points or
Oh,
something.
Right. Right.
that's so
It's not
interesting.
a
Yeah.
bug. It's I think it's probably started off as a bug, but then became
Yeah.
a design. But like the way I play the
Right.
game now is that I'm not like at first it was I'll just put the 4 lines in and wait for the stick, or maybe
Yeah.
two like 8 lines and then drop the 2 sticks and do a double Tetris. But actually, 2 T-spins are way more effective than a double Tetris. So 6 lines are better than 8,
Wow.
and a combo is better than both. And if you
It actually
combo
makes
into
sense.
and if you combo into a T-spin, it's even way more effective. So like combo, T-spin, combo, you're destroying your opponent at that point.
It's not
Right.
counterintuitive. It makes sense because it's actually a higher skill move to pull off and set up. So it's just not intuitive necessarily.
And it's also how you've been getting wrecked at Tetris 99.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that makes perfect sense.
yeah, and me too.
Yeah,
By
yeah,
the
yeah.
way, I can never pull off. I can never pull off the T spin well. Like I can set it up, and then for some reason I always mess it up.
It requires like a different pattern recognition training. So like yeah,
Right.
literally like we'll sit down and train for hours. I'm not training because I'm in my my Tetris zone. Like Osama was
Yeah.
saying, like I
The
don't want to
flow.
think
Right.
about the world. I'm in Tetris world, and I'm just like
Right.
doing this, and then like I start practicing that, and then next thing I know, 4 hours have passed, and I pulled 5 T-spins, and then I
I
got
think.
better with time, and I can pull T-spins way more effectively.
I think for me that's racing games. Now that I'm
Mm.
thinking, like I said Destiny, but I think like just a good generic but pleasant racing game, or like an arcade racer would probably be that for me. Like I was playing Burnout Paradise the other day for no reason whatsoever,
Great game.
and I think because it's Burnout Paradise, you get to go really
Yeah.
fast. You don't have to think too much, and every 12 to 15 seconds you see a very beautiful slow motion crash because you pick the car where you can't turn off the boost
So
anymore.
basically, you're trying to
Uh,
find a game that simulates you driving in Egypt.
right. Yes.
And Burnout is the closest thing.
I mean, that would be a very stressful. That would be very stressful. Like that would either be the most stressful or the least stressful game I've ever played because it will either go. It would either be more like Destruction Derby, right, where it's just chaos and like disaster everywhere, or it would be Traffic Jam Simulator, where you get to move like 2 feet every 25 minutes.
Wow.
It's one or the other, really.
Maybe a bit of Crazy Taxi.
but-
You can add that to the
A little bit. I mean, the cab drives in Egypt are phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like, let me tell you, like there's a skill to. Let's put it this way. I learned my first driving lessons I had in Egypt.
Wow.
Right, the first
Oh
time I
no!
drove.
It's like you start like my first
right.
game was Dark Souls.
Right. But the thing about Cairo traffic that a lot of people that is hard to understand, I think, from the outside, is that it has no rules, and because of that, there are rules.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So yes, there's traffic lights, and we generally somewhat consider them actual parts of traffic, but we ignore them if they're uncomfortable or just not useful. So usually at most traffic intersections, especially when it's busy, the way it always worked is imagine the one direction is driving right from left and right, and you're coming at that intersection, and from the left and the right cars are coming. Now what will happen is the car that is in the lane that is closest to where the traffic is coming from will start to slowly just push a little forward, while that direction is driving. And at some point, one of the cars from that direction, from the side, will go like, oh, I'm going to hit that car, I'm going to brake.
Yep.
So they'll brake. And now that line is stopped, and everybody next to the car that blocked the traffic will pull forward as well.
Yeah.
Right? And then for the second lane, some other cars will start pushing until that lane gets blocked as well. And eventually, the direction of traffic will have changed, right? That now no longer the left to right direction is moving, but your direction is moving. That's how we deal with intersections. But it's also how we deal with literally everything else about traffic, right? So you cross the road wherever you cross the road, right? You want to cross the road as a pedestrian? You start walking. The only rule is you do not stop walking and you do not change your pace, because as long as you're moving in a predictable fashion, we can swerve around you and dodge you, right? But if you suddenly stop, we will dodge straight
Yes.
into you.
I love that. I love that a lot of Egyptian pedestrians, they believe that they can control the force because they're like crossing the road, speeding cars heading towards their direction. Then they extend their arm
They just
like they're
reach
Darth
out.
Vader, go like, I'm gonna stop these vehicles with my arm as I'm crossing by.
But you know what?
It
It
works.
works.
Yes,
it
it
works
does.
because everybody. The thing about the traffic is that everybody knows that nobody knows what they're
Yeah.
doing. And because everybody knows that, and we're all in agreement that traffic is dangerous all around us and that it's unpredictable all around us, we search for patterns of predictability. So you know, in Dutch car training, I recently got my driver's license in the Netherlands. They teach you check your rear mirrors. In Egypt, they go, you don't have a rear mirror. Rear mirror probably got hit like 6 years ago and fell off your car. And malish, but we're gonna drive. Like, come on. So in Egypt, they don't teach you to look in your rear mirror. They teach you only care about the traffic in front of you, and the traffic behind you will care about the traffic in front of them.
Just stay alive. That's all that
Yes.
you need to do.
Right. Right.
Because if everyone did that, everyone's alive. No problems, right?
But that's the thing. It ends up working again in some weird, absurd way. But you gotta, I think a lot of, like, you gotta remember, Cairo is enormous, right? Like that. So for me, the time I spent in Egypt, the time I grew up in Egypt, was in Cairo. And Cairo is not just any city. Cairo is one of the densest, busiest cities on earth. So when it comes to traffic, a city with kind of public transit, but mostly a car city, traffic gets really intense. Going from the one side to the other side of the city during good hours, if you get lucky, 20, 30 minutes.
Wow.
Doing it during when it's busy can be hours. But somehow, I swear to God, the cab drivers, they will always get you there fast. I don't know how they do
Practice, I guess.
it. Genuinely, like Fawzi was saying, it's some crazy taxi stuff.
Yeah.
Man, like
It's masterful.
driving in Jordan is like very stressful. It's kind of like, you know, when I used to drive to go to work when I was living there. Like before I go, I like, you know, call all my family and loved ones and wish them well. In case like I never made it to work, I would like remember me, water my plants, all of this stuff. Like, you know, every morning before I go like, oh, here we go. And like I might make it, I might not. And like, you know, a lot of Jordanians even say that you know, traffic lights and you know, the lines on the street and all of this stuff, those are decorations. They are suggestions.
They're suggestions, exactly.
They're suggestions. You can like follow them or not. The only thing is like, you know, stay alive out there and do your best. And it is so stressful. And like, you know, driving there, I thought, oh my God, like how am I gonna ever do that? I think like it affected my driving style forever. Like when I moved to Germany and I did an equivalent driver's license. My driving instructor was so like you had to do a test to get the German driving license. So I did the test,
Right.
and like the driver, the dude that was like testing me, he was like, "You have trust issues. You should trust in the other drivers." I'm like, "Nope, that's not how I was raised. No, I don't trust nobody on the street." My dad told me, as well as my driving instructor in Jordan, he's like, "Assume that everybody's an idiot. It's the only way. It's the only way you can survive. You just assume everybody's gonna come out there and kill you, and you're basically dodging them the entire time."
Answer me this, Fawzi. A driving instructor in Jordan, is that somebody who teaches you how to drive, or is that somebody you pay to fill out the form that says that they taught you how to drive?
I mean, like I'm like being very scared as I'm driving this vehicle as he finishes half a pack of cigarettes and tells me his opinion about whatever is playing on the radio. And then every now and then he pushes the brake, and then in the most nonchalant voice, he looks at me and go like, "You know, you almost killed us back there. But it's okay. I like the song." And then he lights another cigarette. And it's like the most like people that don't care at all.
Yeah, no. But Jordan's traffic is generally a little more regulated than Cairo traffic, right?
Dude, like I thought like, you know, the traffic in Jordan was difficult, but then I went to Cairo and like I felt like I had my own city in Amman. Like there was nobody in the street in comparison.
Like it's still pretty chaotic in Iraq, but I mean they talk about Egyptian traffic as being chaotic, so there's levels and degrees.
I have never seen anything like it.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a product of just having too many people. It
Oh
just
yeah,
doesn't work. There's just the volume of people is just way too big. And
Yeah.
other countries solve this with mass public transit or things like that. But here in Egypt, it's like unfixable. The amount of people
right.
In Cairo specifically, the amount of people that exist in Cairo. How are you going to make that fit? So people find their own way, right?
What is
And
it, like
Right.
20
I mean,
million
they do.
people in Cairo right now?
Oh yeah, it's. I think it's way more than that. I think the city grew a lot over the last few
Crazy.
years as well. Um, I think my favorite thing is just like, especially when I was growing up, right? When I was younger, and Cairo was a little less structured than it is nowadays. Even today, but especially back then, it's like the thing where you're like on a three. It's like a 3-lane road, and there's like 6 cars, and all cars are missing their mirrors, right? Because that's the only way they fit. So either the mirrors got broken, or they folded them in just for this part of the road because we don't use them anyway.
yeah,
Um, but it's stuff like that. But again, like the more I'm thinking about this and like the traffic, the more I'm impressed by these
Yeah.
cabbies because they're the chillest
yeah.
people. You sit down and you get there's three types of drivers, right? You've got the first one, and they're just chill. They're just sitting there. They're just relaxing. They're just watching. They're leaning back. They've got their one hand on the wheel, and the other hand is not on the wheel. They're smoking a cigarette, or they have their arm on the window, like like where the window would be if there was a window or it's not open.
Not always the case.
Um, right, not always the case. And they're chill. And then there's the one that's always yelling. Right, you get in the cab, and you drive 2 meters. Immediately, they start yelling at the traffic, and you're like 2 seconds in the car, and the cab driver just looks at you, like right, and you're like, is there a seatbelt? There is no seatbelt. Astaghfirullah, there is no seatbelt. Where do I? And then you just Bismillah Rahman Rahim, and you hope that you make it to your final destination. And the third type, and I think my most favorite type, is probably the one that you get in the car, you sit down, and then they just tell you their life story for like 45 minutes
Yeah.
straight, right? You arrive at your final destination, and you feel bad about getting out because the story isn't over yet. And they charge the ticker keeps going. Like they're telling you the story, and then it's like, yeah, my sixth kid, right? My sixth kid, Ahmed, yeah, right. I told you about him. He went to school, right? And I was like, and they just keep going, and you're just watching the ticket go up. And he was like, I can just give you a tip, mate. Like it's fine. Like I will give you, because that's kind of the way it works, right? Like you negotiate a very low price, as low as you can get it, and then you add a
Yep.
big tip, especially if you can afford it. But the skill level is ridiculous, and they can tell I mean, they probably tell their life story 26 times a day, but
Yeah.
still, like I can my brain has to go in the mode that Osama described earlier from
Yeah.
work. If I ever have to be in traffic similar to that in Cairo, I for sure need calm brain. I cannot do that any other way.
Yeah, no, I get you. One thing that I actually embarrassingly caught myself doing that I'm not very proud of, but I'll share anyway, is that if I'm in like, anywhere like North America or Europe, it doesn't matter, and I call a cab or an Uber, and if it's an Arab driver, my instinct is the first thing I do is ask him how long they've been in that country, just to see if they've gotten over those habits. And it's not like something I do consciously at all. It's more like, oh, you're from Egypt. How long have you been? Oh, 15 years. Good.
6 months. I'll get off at the next curve.
This is my stop. Thank you.
Did I say 10 minutes away? I meant 10 seconds away.
Right. The other thing, they have these things, what do you call them? The speed bumps.
Yeah.
In Cairo, I swear to God, what they do is there's a truck, and from the back of the truck pours asphalt, like it does in any country. And then normally in most countries, when you build a road, you put the asphalt on the road and you make it nice and flat, and then afterwards you put the road bump on top. I think in Egypt, it is my belief, and this is speculation, that they just pause the truck for a minute and just let extra asphalt get on the road until it's a bump, and then they continue. Because I swear to God, they are the most uneven, unfair, unpredictable things. I have seen an uncle of mine hit one of those at a speed that looked agreeable for how the bump looked, and his car, I swear to God, flew
no.
Oh,
for a second before it came back down on the ground
wow.
again. And I'm just like, that speed bump really doesn't look like it's that high. And it's like, well,
I think
They're
I
not
th-
like everything else. They're just not regulated. So whoever had to put them
Right.
there, they're like, I guess this is the right size.
we had the
Let's move on
same
to the
in
next
Jordan.
one.
None of
Right.
them are regulated, and
Yeah.
like people would have like street smarts and to go like, I don't want to take that road instead of that one because that road had the big matab.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
it like broke the axle on my car once, so I'm not gonna go there once. So I'm gonna go
Yeah.
in that direction instead.
or, or, or your cab driver will have like they'll swerve across 4 lanes of the road because the next
Yeah.
matub is like easier on the left.
Oh.
Yeah.
So they'll just go all the way on the left, and then they're swerving between like 4 cars, and there's like, oh, no, I just got to go here so I can go faster over the speed bump. It's like, isn't the point of the speed bump to go slower? It's like, yeah, but then it takes longer to get where you want to go. You want to get there fast,
So
right?
another thing that's not regulated in Iraq that it took a while for me to get used to is that parking lots, they don't look like parking lots. They're like barely any even signs that it's a parking lot. It's just like, hey, this is, and you're still paying for them. Like you walk up and you see this little
Right.
kid, like usually a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old kid, and you're like, is this a parking lot? Yes, it is. You can park over there. Okay, here's some money, and you just walk
Right.
away. And I'm
Right.
like, what is this? How do you know this is just not a kid sitting in a corner? And it's just like this.
Oh, it is absolutely just a kid sitting in the corner. That's 100% just a kid sitting in.
No, Rami, don't
That's
tell me this.
100% what happens.
Don't tell me that.
No, for sure. It's the same thing when you pull up to an intersection and it's busy. These kids will run up and they'll start cleaning
Yeah.
your windows, and then you pay
Yeah.
them. And it's like sometimes they leave your window worse than it was,
Yes.
but you still
Yeah.
pay them because they're kids. They,
course.
they like life is
Of
rough,
course.
and you give them some money and you keep driving. But the parking lot thing is 100%. It's somebody who will. Do they also help you get out of the parking spot, or do they help you park? Where they do the hand
Yeah.
gestures.
Oh my god, yes.
Right? They're like,
Yes.
yeah, okay, come back, back up, and it's like you have like 27 meters of parking. There's no car in the entire street. And they're like, yeah, rotate, and they're not even looking
No.
at your car anymore. They're just like,
It's very helpful. Thank you.
We
kid.
have the same in
Right.
Jordan. Like there'll be like empty plots of land places, and like you're trying to find parking, and there's cars on top of each other everywhere. Then you see that empty
Right.
plot of land. There's nothing there, and you go like, that's very odd. Could it
Yeah.
be? Could it not be?
Right.
You park the car, and like I'm looking around, I'm seeing nobody. I go like, there's nobody here,
Yeah.
and surely enough, there's always either the kid or the dude who goes like, "Oh, hello, thank you for parking here,"
Yes.
and the hand gesture, "Let me help you park in this empty plot of land," and then take the money and run. Like it's like this guy's not wearing an outfit, he's not wearing like a uniform. How would
No,
I know if
nothing.
this person works at this empty plot of land?
There's like
Or after
no
you've-
signs. There are no lines. There's nothing. It's just
After you turn off the car, they come
Yeah.
running up. They're like, oh yeah, let me help. Yeah, no, this is you parked well. This is good. But that's it. Like in Egypt, it doesn't matter.
yeah.
Like you run up to the parking lot and you help somebody park, you give them some money. Like it doesn't matter who it is. Like they do that thing probably because it helps in their life and it's a way to get money. And life's rough. You help.
You're
people
giving me
out.
flashbacks of the time I walked into a Best Buy with a blue polo shirt, and everybody was asking me all the questions. I did not think that through.
You do look very
Well,
helpful.
I actually was
Like,
able
let's
to
be honest.
answer like 3 or 4 of them. It's all like, where's this department? Where's that department?
Is
I'm like,
Osama,
Osama,
this
you
could
have-
be your hobby. You could just
Right.
sometimes when you're bored, you just put on a blue polo shirt and go to the nearest Best
Like-
Buy and make some friends.
He walks into the Best Buy, and then the employees there are like, Osama, can you do inventory management real quick? Computer, second floor. Welcome
that
back.
is hilarious.
Yeah, I can see it happen. I can see it happen to you, of all people. I can see it happen.
It
to you.
actually
just
sounds
talking
like a fun
kindly.
time.
Right.
Oh man.
But yeah, no, but I think, you know what? That is exactly, like, let's put it this way. That is exactly how the traffic works, right? If you look like you can drive a
Yeah.
car and your car is not hitting any other
Yeah.
car, you're a
Success.
driver. We're done. You didn't kill anybody. You didn't get killed. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
Keep
Yes.
driving. We will see you next. We will see you
See you
next
next
time.
week. and on that note, it sounds like we're talking into microphones, so we're doing a podcast, I guess.
I guess
No, but
so.
we're all alive. Alhamdulillah.
Nobody died.
We'll see you all next week. This has been another edition of Habibis. coming at you, not live at all.
Not no, thank God.
Thank you everybody for tuning in. Thanks everybody for following us. Please follow us on Twitter for more questions or feedback. We read them all. We respond to them. Our Twitter is at the Habibis with an underscore at
Somewhere.
the underscore Habibis. Just and our Discord is
It's at Discord,
Discord at
thehabibis.com.
thehabibis.com. And our email is info@thehabibis.com. We're getting this down. We're getting this down. Please send us your suggestions, emails, complaints, everything. We read them all. Join us
Driving
at the-
stories.
Yes.
Driving stories,
Oh yeah.
please.
Oh
Yes.
yeah. Hey, that's actually a good idea. Send us your stories. We'll read them on the air. Well,
Yeah,
on
maybe
the
we
air.
should start reading some of those emails on the air, actually.
Absolutely.
Now that we've said it,
Good.
we're legally, it's legally binding.
Oh no.
All right. Thank you all for joining us. See you next week. Salam.
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 That was the Habibis podcast for this week. I am Fawzi Mesmar, your host for this episode. You can find me on Twitter at Fawzi Mesmar. My fellow Habibis were Osama Dorias, who you can find on Twitter at Osama Dorias, and Rami Ismail, who you can find on Twitter at THA_Rami. Send us your questions, stories, and suggestions via info@thehabibis.com. Intro and outro music was provided by Malik Zubayla, and the logo was provided by Ibrahim Hamdi. The Habibis is a weekly podcast about 3 game developers drinking good Arab tea, with new episodes launching every Friday, inshallah. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe to your favorite podcasting service, or check out thehabibis.com for more information. Thank you for listening. Salam.